Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is AV, and whether you're dealing with insomnia or you just need some background noise while you're gaming, you are in the right place. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into some stories. Our first story is a tough one. It's titled, "My Girlfriend Lied for Months, and Now I Am Homeless. Merry Christmas to Me." What was supposed to be a life-changing point for the good is now a huge nightmare. Me, 45 years old, and her, 44. We have had a long-distance relationship for going on 3 years. There were talks of her moving to be with me, 15 hours away, for nearly a year. But when I was laid off in July, pending a 2-year contract where I must stay with the company remote to earn my severance, we decided, 6 months ago, that I should move there instead. For the last 6 months, I have been making arrangements. I sold my house in a bad market and barely broke even. I sold or gave away most of my possessions. I had a full 3-bedroom house, and now, literally everything I own fits into a Honda HR-V. Fast forward to Christmas break, and it is finally time for me to move. I have been sending her Christmas gifts for months in anticipation. We have talked daily about all of our plans. I was supposed to start driving yesterday, but the night before, she tells me that there is a problem. She tells me that her ex, 6 years split and 16 years divorced, has decided he wants her moved out of the house by January 5th, since I am coming, and that he will be moving in. They supposedly had the conversation about me moving months ago. I was furious. I bit my tongue and told her to use $2,000 of what we had in order to hire an attorney, because he failed to refinance the house from their divorce paperwork 16 years prior, and her name was on the mortgage. Plus, she had been paying on it for years. Or so I thought. She is a substitute teacher, and money is always tight. I had no clue how tight. This woman has always helped me when needed, no questions asked. It turns out she was having money problems, and she had her ex move back into the house in late August to help financially. He gave up his place just to do it. She never said a word, or I would have tried to help. For months, we have been going back and forth, dreaming of the day that I would finally move. With my son, now an adult and responsible to be on his own, I sacrificed everything. I chose to be happy with my girlfriend. So my car is fully packed. I am ready to leave. And then, my girlfriend tries to pin the blame on her ex. I am on the phone with lawyers. I am pulling her divorce paperwork. I am doing everything I can to help her. I get a hotel room and tell her I will delay my trip a day or two while we get things in place. I was exhausted with worry. I was up all night making arrangements. My girlfriend tells me she ordered the divorce paperwork and scheduled an appointment with the lawyers I provided her. She is being quiet. After a few hours of no communication, I pass out from pure exhaustion. At 12 a.m., I wake up to the $2,000 I had sent her and no messages. I immediately call her. This can't be possible. She tells me the truth. He had been helping her for months, and I can't come there. She can't find a reasonable apartment that will allow her 3 cats. Not to mention, this entire thing will upend her teen son's life. Here I was, angry at her ex, when she never even told him I was coming, until 2 days ago. She made him give up his life to help her. Her response was that she never thought I would really give up everything to be there with her. And now, I also have given up everything. So, here I am, at 3:30 a.m. in my car, homeless, alone, in shock by the entire situation, crushed, because the life I had been planning has been overturned, and the life I had is also mostly gone. I just can't. How can someone do this to someone else that they care about? Note: we traveled back and forth and spent plenty of time together. She never asked for money and paid for a majority of the traveling. I also have confirmed that they have not physically been together in over 4 years. That was a devastating way to start the night. It's hard to imagine losing everything because of a lie from the person you trusted most. But we have to move on. Our next story is a bit different. It's a chilling reminder that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. The story is titled, "I was offered $1 million to work on Christmas Eve. It was a trap. I've always been thin. Not gym fit, but structurally thin. Naturally gaunt. My bones are fine. My shoulders narrow. My rib cage compact. In school, they called me skeleton. In adulthood, this trait made me the perfect candidate for jobs no one else could do. Cleaning industrial air conditioning ducts, repairing ancient sewage pipes, urban spelunking. I fit where no one else fits. That is my skill. But it was this skill that put me in the leather chair of Mr. Valdemir Clove in a penthouse in São Paulo, signing my own death warrant. The ad was discreet. It said, seeking individual with high flexibility and tolerance for confined spaces for Christmas artistic performance. Payment: $1 million. Life risk, calculated. Clove was a construction tycoon, a man obsessed with brutalism and concrete. He didn't smile. He looked at me as if he were measuring the diameter of my skull with his eyes. Christmas is a logistical lie, he said, pouring pure vodka into 2 glasses. The physics of a fat man descending a 30 by 30 centimeter masonry duct is impossible. I want to prove the opposite. I want to prove the myth is achievable, if the man is adaptable. You want me to go down a chimney? I asked. Not just any chimney, he said. The chimney. He pressed a button, and a holographic model appeared on the table. It was a colossal structure, a vertical tube of refractory brick and concrete descending 60 meters, about 200 feet, full of curves, bottlenecks, siphons, and soot. I built this on my property in the countryside. It is a Christmas intrusion simulator. The goal is simple. You enter through the top at midnight on the 24th. You must reach the fireplace in the basement before dawn. If you deliver the present, the $1 million is yours. And if I get stuck? I asked. Clove smiled. Gold teeth. There are rescue teams, but the structure is solid. To get you out of there, we would have to demolish the tower, which would take days. So, my suggestion is, don't get stuck. Use gravity. Exhale the air from your lungs to descend. I accepted. I should have refused. But my mother was on the waiting list for a marrow transplant, and the money would buy the best treatment in the world. I sold myself for love, like so many other idiots. December 24th, 11:45 p.m. The tower stood in the middle of an empty field, lit by floodlights. It looked like an industrial obelisk, ugly and dark. There was no house around it, just the tower and buried deep below in the earth, the bunker simulating the living room. I was taken to the top by a crane. The suit wasn't velvet. It was Kevlar-reinforced red spandex, extremely tight, lubricated with a transparent industrial gel. The hat was an aerodynamic helmet. The sack of gifts was a metal cylinder attached to my ankle by a steel chain. "What's in the cylinder?" I asked the engineer, checking my gear. "Dead weight," he said, avoiding my eyes. "To help with the descent. Good luck, Santa. Try not to breathe too deep." They positioned me at the mouth of the chimney. It was dark. The smell rising from it wasn't burning wood. It smelled of mold, oil, and something sweet, cloying. I looked down. Total darkness. "Go!" The radio in my ear crackled. It was Clav's voice. I slid inside. The first 10 meters were easy. The duct was about 50 centimeters wide. I could descend using my legs and back to control the speed. Chimneying technique, ironically. But at 20 meters, the duct changed. It narrowed. Now, the walls touched my chest and back simultaneously. I had to keep my arms stretched above my head, because there was no room for them at my sides. I descended centimeter by centimeter, emptying the air from my lungs to reduce my chest volume, sliding, and taking short inhales to lock in place. Exhale, slide, lock, exhale, slide, lock. The silence was absolute. It was broken only by the sound of fabric scraping against rough brick and my own panting breath. The cylinder attached to my foot banged against the walls below. "Stage 1 complete," Clav's voice sounded in my ear. "Entering the compression zone." The duct made a gentle curve to the right. The problem is, bricks don't make gentle curves. The edges cut into me through the suit. I felt the pressure increase. Now, the duct wasn't square. It was irregular. There were protrusions. Plaster intentionally applied poorly, just to scratch me. I felt panic try to claw at my brain. The urge to scream. The urge to kick. "Calm down," I thought. "You are liquid. You are oil. Slide." That was when I hit the first obstacle. My boot touched something soft. It wasn't the bottom. It was something stuck to the wall. I shined the light mounted on my helmet downward. There was a clump of fur? No, it was hair. Long, gray human hair, stuck in the mortar between the bricks, and a piece of torn red fabric. "Clav," I called. There's something here." "Ignore it. Residue from previous tests," he said. "Tests with dummies?" I asked. Silence on the radio. "Clav, they were dummies, right?" "Keep descending, Santa. The clock is ticking." Fear froze my stomach. I hadn't been the first. I tried to pass the clump of hair. My foot got tangled. I kicked to shake it loose. Something fell down into the dark. Something that made the sound of dry bone hitting stone. I kept descending, shaking. At 40 meters, the heat began. The walls were hot. Not fire hot, but hot like the skin of someone with a fever. The lubricating gel started to get sticky. Sweat ran inside the suit, stinging my scratches. The air became unbearable. I pulled in air, and it tasted like ash. I reached the siphon. It was a U-bend. I had to go down, crawl sideways through a horizontal section, then go up a bit to go down again. The horizontal part was the worst. It was so narrow my helmet scraped the ceiling and the floor. I had to turn my head, sideways. I got stuck halfway. My shoulders locked. The cylinder on my foot was heavy, pulling me back, but I needed to go forward. I tried to push with my toes. Nothing. I was trapped. 40 meters deep, buried alive in a concrete gut. "I'm stuck," I whispered, trying to save oxygen. "I see," Clav said. He had cameras inside. "The siphon is the filter. It separates the nice boys from the naughty ones. Dislocate your shoulder." "What?" "Your shoulders are too broad for this passage. Dislocate your left shoulder. It's the only way." I started to cry, tears of rage and terror. "I'm not doing that. Get me out of here." "There is no getting you out, Davi. Either you advance or you stay there. And in 2 hours, the chimney's automatic heating system will turn on to clean the residue. You will cook." Bastard. He planned this. I looked at the brick wall 5 centimeters from my nose. There were scratch marks there, fingernails that had dug into the brick until they broke. Someone died here, in this exact spot. I wasn't going to die. Not for him. I took a deep breath. I braced my left arm against a brick ledge. I closed my eyes. I thought about my mother. I thought about the million. I thrust my body forward violently, while locking my arm backward. I heard the snap, crack. The pain was blinding. I felt the head of my bone pop out of the socket. My arm went limp. Useless. I screamed, but the sound had nowhere to go. It came back to my ears, deafening. But it worked. With the collapsed shoulder, I gained the 3 centimeters I needed. I dragged myself through the siphon, crying, pulling my body with just my right arm and my legs. I made it through, my left arm dragged behind me, an anchor of dead meat. I fell into the final vertical section, another 20 meters. Here, the walls changed. They were no longer brick, they were smooth, moist. I touched the wall with my good hand. It was soft. It yielded to the touch, and it pulsed. Meat? No. It was some kind of synthetic, biological lining. It felt like the inside of a giant esophagus. And it stank. It smelled of gastric juice and rotting flesh. "Welcome to the throat." Clav's voice sounded excited. "Almost there. The gift, Davy. Don't forget the gift." I reached the bottom. There was no fireplace. There was a metal grate. And beneath the grate, fire. Real fire. Orange flames licking the metal. And below the fire, I saw the room. It was an incinerator, a gigantic industrial furnace. And in the middle of the fire, there was an altar. There were charred bones down there. Small skulls, large skulls, and remnants of red clothes. The previous Santas. They didn't get stuck. They reached the end, and they were burned. I stopped on top of the grate. My boots started to melt. "Clav!" I screamed. "There's fire. How do I get out?" "The delivery, Davi. The contract says, deliver the gift to the fireplace. Throw the cylinder." I opened the cylinder. Inside, there were no toys. There was meat, pieces of raw, bloody meat. "What is this?" I asked, desperate. "Food," said Clav. "What lives in the pit is hungry. The fire is just to keep it warm. Throw the meat. If it eats, maybe it will let you pass." I looked through the flames. Something moved. A black hand, charred but alive, with fingers of molten metal. A creature lived in the fire. I threw the meat through the bars. The thing in the fire stirred. It grabbed the meat voraciously. "Now!" screamed Clav. "The grate will open for 10 seconds while it eats. Jump!" The grate opened with a mechanical screech. I fell into hell. The heat hit me like a physical punch. I landed next to the creature. It was a humanoid made of coal and lava, with eyes that were just glowing embers. I saw a small steel door behind the fire altar. I ran. My dislocated shoulder swung, the pain irrelevant now. Adrenaline was the only fuel. The creature saw me. It dropped the meat. It preferred live prey. "Ho! Ho! Ho!" it roared. The sound was like a building collapsing. I threw myself against the steel door. It was locked. There was a rotary valve. I tried to turn it with my right hand. Jammed. My glove melted, burning the palm of my hand. The creature grabbed my leg. I felt the skin of my calf cook. I screamed. I used my dislocated shoulder. I shoved my left arm, the dead arm, into the valve lever. I used the weight of my body to turn it. I felt the ligaments finish tearing. But the valve turned. The door opened. The vacuum sucked me out. The door slammed shut, severing the fire fingers of the creature. I fell onto a cold marble floor. Freezing air conditioning. Silence. I was in a living room, a fancy living room, decorated with a beautiful Christmas tree. On the sofa, with a glass of vodka, was Valdemir Klov. He looked at his watch. 05:58 a.m. He smiled. Congratulations. You are the first one who made it. I tried to get up. I couldn't. My body was destroyed. Klov stood up and walked over to me. He looked disappointed. I lost the bet, he said, taking a checkbook from his pocket. I bet my partners you would die in the siphon. He wrote the check. $1 million. He threw the paper on my chest, which was covered in soot and blood. Medical rescue is waiting outside. Merry Christmas, Davi. He turned his back. I looked at the check. Then I looked at the fireplace in that room. There was a fire poker next to it, a heavy iron bar with a sharp point. The pain vanished. Only hate remained. I stood up. I grabbed the poker with my burned right hand. The raw flesh of my palm stuck to the cold metal. But I squeezed. Klov was pouring more vodka. You know, he said, next year I'm going to make the duct narrower. I think 25 centimeters is the human limit. I walked up to him, silent as soot. Klov, I called. He turned. What? You forgot something. What? The present. I buried the tip of the poker in his chest. He didn't scream. He just widened his eyes. I pushed the iron until it went through. He fell to his knees, choking on his own blood. I dragged his body. I dragged him to the secret door I had come out of, the furnace door. I opened the valve. The heat exploded outward. The creature inside roared. It wanted more. You wanted to prove the physics, I said. Let's see if you fit. I shoved his head into the oven. The creature grabbed him. Klov screamed. It was a long, high-pitched scream that echoed through the entire tower. I closed the door. I spun the lock. I picked up the check from the floor. I walked out the front door. The medical team was outside. My God, what happened in there? The paramedic asked. Work accident, I replied, closing my eyes. The chimney was clogged. That was a year ago. I had the surgeries. My shoulder has titanium pins. My mother had her transplant and is doing well. I bought a beach house, far from chimneys, far from holes, but I don't light fires. Never again. And sometimes, in the silence of the night, I hear it, coming from the sink drain, or the air conditioning piping, muffled screams, and a guttural laugh made of fire. Klov is still there. The creature didn't kill him. I think it transformed him. And every Christmas, I feel like he's trying to climb back up. That last story. It makes you wonder what kind of monsters are hiding behind a suit and a checkbook. But sometimes, the most terrifying things aren't people at all. They are the places that shouldn't exist. Our next story takes us away from the city and deep into the woods, where the GPS stops working and the rules of reality start to bend. It's a story titled The Road That Wasn't on the Map. In the late 2000s, one road in southern Russia stopped appearing on maps. Officially, it was under repair. In reality, it became a corridor. Short, quiet, and final. Truck drivers learned the rules quickly. If someone asked you to take a detour there after sunset, you said no. If you couldn't refuse, you didn't argue. The scheme was simple. Cargo disappeared. Not entire trucks, just enough to make complaints pointless. Fuel, electronics, alcohol, always clean, always without witnesses. At the center of it all was a logistics company with perfect paperwork. Licenses, taxes paid, even awards from local authorities. Drivers who lost their cargo were offered a choice the next day. No shouting, no threats. They would be told. Sign this. We'll write it off as a loading error. Those who signed kept their jobs. Those who didn't were sent back on that same road. They were told to retrace the route. Not everyone came back from that trip. Police reports listed heart attacks, accidents, or alcohol. The files were thin, too thin, but no one pushed further. The region needed stability, not questions. Once, a young investigator tried to look closer. He noticed that GPS trackers always failed, on the exact same 3 kilometers. Cameras, too. Mobile signals dropped exactly 40 seconds before the turn. He filed a report, then another. 2 weeks later, he transferred to another city, voluntarily, without explanation. His colleagues said he simply stopped answering calls. The road reopened years later. Fresh asphalt, new signs. Tourists drive there now, without knowing why the locals still avoid stopping. Sometimes, truckers say their radios crackle at night on that stretch. Voices, fragments of conversations, coordinates that lead to nowhere. Officially, nothing happened there. Unofficially, everyone knows the truth. That road didn't just take lives. It erased problems. Some people say that a man is only as good as his word. But what happens when that word becomes a burden too heavy to carry? Our next story is a bit different. It's a haunting look at how a single commitment can reshape a person's entire existence. This is a story of how promises can change you forever. Let me tell you my story. A story of how promises can cause the biggest problems in your life. Honestly, this feels like something out of a movie. It all started when I was at a low point. My previous relationship had ended roughly. I was sidelined, and life just wasn't being fair. I told my friend, let's call him A, that I just wanted someone genuine, someone who actually understood me. He told me about a girl, a friend of his girlfriend. That is where it all started. We started talking on Instagram. At first, it was just basic info. But soon, the conversations began to flow naturally. We lived far apart. Our parents were strict, and we went to different schools. Normal dates were out of the question. After 3 months of being online friends, I realized I had feelings for her. So, I made my first promise. I will make our meeting a reality. It took 3 weeks of planning. We set a date during Durga Puja. I planned a hangout with my friends, intending to meet her afterward. I wanted to propose. I bought her chocolates, because we both loved them. Getting to her was a nightmare. I was on the complete other side of the city. My wingman, B, asked me, "How far are you willing to go, dude?" Right then, she called me. Her voice was so small, so cute. She said, "Please come quickly." I reached her at 7:34 p.m. on October 10th. We met under a moonlit bridge. I proposed, and through happy tears, she said yes. My first promise was fulfilled. That night, I made my second promise. I'll always make you happy, which is the literal meaning of my name, Chirag. For a while, everything was perfect. We found ways to meet between classes. We sent secret letters. On New Year's, I made my third promise. I'll never leave your side. We even planned our education together. We decided to study in the same school for the 11th and 12th grades, switching to the CBSE syllabus to stay together. That was my fourth promise. We both worked so hard. We became obsessed with a future together. We had nicknames. I called her Kit. She called me Cat. Everyone knew us as Kit Kat. Life was good. I even scored a 97% on my board exams. She scored 91. We were winning at life and love. But everything changed on June 10th. My mom found our texts. I had left my phone unlocked. My mother is conservative, and because we came from different religious backgrounds, she couldn't accept it. My phone and laptop were taken away. I was cut off. I managed to wish her a happy birthday through an old account. When I saw her at tuition later, her face was bloated from crying. Her mascara was ruined. She hugged me so tight, screaming in a broken voice, "I thought I'd never see you again." We tried to hang on for 2 more months, but the pressure from my family was too much. My mom threatened to call her parents. I suggested we tell everyone we broke up, just to stop the rumors. But she looked at me and said, "What's the point? If we can't be together in the future, why are we doing this?" Something inside her shifted. We didn't end in an argument. We ended in a hug. I regretted it a week later and begged for another shot. She said, "If the future decides, only then." I told her I would wait for her indefinitely. That was my fifth and final promise. One I should have never made. She suddenly met another guy. See, he was full of red flags. I warned her, but she snapped at me. She told me, "Maybe this isn't so I can forget you. Maybe it's so you can get over me." He turned out to be exactly what I predicted. I tried to protect her from the shadows. I worked with her best friend to try and get her life together, hoping for one more chance. But 10 days ago, I reached the last stage of grief. We were on a school trip. I was planning to propose again, but she hadn't even broken up with C yet when she found a new guy, D. I was sitting in the seat directly in front of her on the bus. I had to watch as she held his hand and kissed him. The same girl who once cried because she thought she'd lost me was now kissing someone else, while I was the one crying. She has changed. She is no longer the person I knew. She is throwing her life away, and I can't deal with it anymore. That's when it hit me. Acceptance. I am still in love with who she was, but I will never pursue her again. I am done keeping promises to a ghost. But hey, that's just my story. Make your own. Our next story is about someone who took those feelings and experienced them under some very specific circumstances. This is, I had crushes on my teachers at school, and it wasn't exactly what you'd expect. I've never told anyone about this. But looking back on my school years, I realized that some of my teachers mattered to me emotionally, and even aesthetically, far more than I would have admitted at the time. In 6th grade, my religious studies teacher at a private school was the first to leave an impression on me. She wasn't tall, rather round, and almost always dressed in black. I can still picture her clearly, wearing buttoned cardigans or a black double-breasted coat, belted at the waist, with a dark scarf. She gave off something calm, grounded, and almost protective. In hindsight, I think I was captivated by her in a very confused way. I was mixing admiration with a vague, unformed fascination. Her presence, her clothes, the way she occupied space. It stirred something in me that I didn't yet understand. There was never any inappropriate gesture, only thoughts I kept to myself. In 5th grade, when I was 12, my French teacher affected me even more strongly. She had recently come back from maternity leave. She often wore a structured beige, double-breasted coat with 4 visible buttons. She had a very strong physical presence. One day in class, she asked who had been talking during the lesson. No one spoke up. After class, I went to see her in the hallway and said it was me, even though I hadn't done anything. I know now that this had nothing to do with discipline. I just wanted to be near her for a few more moments. I wanted to feel her presence, to exist in her gaze for just a second longer. Deep down, I wished for a sense of comfort, like a hug. I was drawn to her with a clearer sense of attraction, even though it remained entirely internal. I wanted closeness, warmth, without knowing how to put it into words or who I could talk to about it. In 8th grade, during a school trip, I had an argument with a classmate and ended up crying alone. My French teacher, a different one this time, came to check on me. I very clearly remember her long, black, double-breasted coat and her slightly curly hair. Looking back, that moment mixed comfort with a confused attraction that was hard to name at that age. I felt a strong urge to be close to her, to hold on to that moment of care. It's a gentle memory that has remained surprisingly vivid after all these years. Later, in 10th grade, another French teacher affected me in a different way. She was fairly young, under 30, with medium-length dark hair. She struggled to command respect from a restless class. I remember very clearly her long coats, gray or pale green, simple, slightly oversized, and always buttoned. With her, the feeling was less about romance and more about strong empathy. I wanted to comfort her, to protect her in some way. I had these silent imaginations about her, without ever showing anything, without ever crossing any line. In hindsight, I don't confuse these memories with a real desire for a relationship. They belong to adolescence. They are about the discovery of attraction, authority, and that strange mix of admiration and silent imagination. Today, I've been in a happy, stable relationship for many years. These memories don't change that. They simply exist as traces. Memories that shaped my aesthetic preferences. I even told my partner about my 6th grade teacher once. She found it quite sweet. I wonder if others experienced something similar during their youth. Being captivated by a teacher, feeling a discreet but lasting attraction. Is it more common than we admit? Did you experience this kind of fascination at that age? I'm talking about feelings as a student, the silent thoughts that stay with you long after the school year is over. The holidays are usually a time for family, laughter, and bright lights. No, there is a different side to this season, a side that exists in the places that everyone has left behind. When the doors are locked and the staff goes home, some buildings don't just sit empty. They wait. Our next story takes us to a place that was supposed to be vacant until January. It's titled, Closed for the Holidays. I was only supposed to be there for a week. I normally work at another storage facility across town. Same company, different location. A few days before Christmas, my supervisor called and asked if I could cover one of our older sites, just until the holidays were over. The man who ran that place had passed away suddenly. A heart condition, I was told. His name was Frank. He had worked that facility for over 30 years. Nobody really knew much about him beyond that. Quiet, meticulous, very particular about routines. The kind of person who kept handwritten notes for everything. They could not find a permanent replacement on short notice. So I was sent in as a temporary substitute. Just keep things running. Lock up on time. Follow Frank's notes. That was the phrase everyone used. Follow his notes, and you'll be fine. My first day there was December 22nd. The facility sat on the edge of town, older than the one I usually worked at. Long concrete corridors, metal doors, motion-activated lights that shut off if you stood still too long. Frank's office was exactly how you would expect. Clean. No clutter. A thick notebook on the desk, filled with neat handwriting, opening and closing procedures, gate codes, which units had automatic payments. Everything was documented. The first day went smoothly. A few customers stopped by to grab decorations or gifts they had stored. I locked the gate at 6, same as instructed, and went home thinking the job would be boring. Good. Boring was good for this time of year. The second day was more of the same. I just needed to get through one more day before we closed for Christmas and New Year's. We closed at 6 p.m. sharp. I put the sign up on the gate that read, "Closed for the holidays." I did my walkthrough and checked each corridor, just like Frank's note said. That was when I noticed one of the hallway lights was still on. Unit 117. The lights were motion-based. If nobody was there, they shut off after a minute or two. This one stayed on. I assumed a customer was still inside, and called out, letting them know we were closing. No response. I walked down the corridor, my footsteps echoing louder than usual. Unit 117's door was open. Inside, I saw a chair, a simple plastic chair, positioned near the back wall, and a man sitting in it. He was tall, thin, well-dressed, not like someone who belonged there. His posture was straight, his hands folded calmly in his lap, as if he had all the time in the world. I told him again that we were closed and he would need to leave. He looked at me, studied my face for a moment, and said politely, "I will need my time." That caught me off guard. I repeated myself, firmer this time. I told him I had to lock up. He smiled slightly, not amused, just acknowledging. "You are new," he said. "Frank used to handle this himself." The way he said Frank's name made my stomach tighten. I asked how he knew Frank. He smirked. "Oh, we go a long way back." Those words filled me with a sense of dread, and that was when I really noticed his face. He looked younger than I expected. No lines, no strain. The kind of face you associate with someone who has not had to rush anywhere in a long time. The man tilted his head, almost curious. "I hope he left you instructions." Something about that annoyed me. I had been professional, and now this stranger was questioning me. I told him I was calling security. I lifted my radio and tried to contact them. Static. Nothing but interference. When I looked back at the man, the air in the room felt heavier. "I told you," he said calmly. "I need my time." That was when I noticed the wall behind him. The steel surface was polished enough to reflect light. I could see the chair clearly, but not him. The moment that realization hit me, his eyes flicked toward the wall, then back to me. His voice dropped, still controlled, but colder. "I asked you to leave me alone." The hallway lights went out. I did not argue. I did not speak. I ran. Once I was outside, my phone had reception again. I called security, stumbling over my words. Before they even arrived, my phone rang. Head office. They told me to leave immediately and go home. No explanation. That night, I barely slept. I dreamt of dark corridors and doors that never opened. I woke up once, gasping, my heart racing for no clear reason. The next morning, I went back with a senior manager and a security supervisor. They asked me one question. "Did you read all of Frank's notes?" I said yes. They exchanged a look, then took the notebook from the desk. One of them flipped past the sections I had been using, past the procedures, past the maintenance logs. Near the back, he slid a finger along the edge of the pages and pressed. The binding loosened slightly. A folded sheet slipped out from where it had been hidden in the spine itself. Written small, carefully. Unit 117. Do not disturb. Paid in full. December only. There was more. Below it were a few short lines. There had been an accident. In Eastern Europe. Somewhere remote. The kind of place where help did not arrive quickly. Frank had been certain he was not going to make it. The man found him there. What exactly he did was not written down. Only the outcome. Frank survived. Walked away. Lived another 33 years. This was how he repaid it. 1 month a year, December, privacy, no questions, no interruptions. Paid in full. Every time. This was the arrangement. They told me Frank understood what would happen if the agreement was broken. This year, with Frank gone, nobody had warned me properly. The manager closed the notebook and told me the unit would remain sealed until January. I did not ask questions. I did not go back. Now, whenever I happen to drive past that facility around Christmas, the sign is up. Closed for the holidays. And somewhere deep inside, a light stays on. We all deserve a little rest and relaxation. A chance to escape the stress of daily life and come back feeling renewed. But for the woman in our next story, the renewal was a bit too perfect. This is, my girlfriend had a spa day. She didn't come back the same. I thought I was being nice. The perfect boyfriend. Recognizing when his partner needed a day of relaxation. It was a mistake, all of it. And I possess full ownership of that decision. She had been so stressed from work. Retail during the holidays is a nightmare. 12-hour days, 6 days a week. She complained daily about her aching feet and tired brain. So, the idea hatched in my head. The perfect gift. I didn't want a generic $20 gift card. I wanted an exclusive experience. I scoured the internet. After a while, I found it. Untitled, the banner read. The website was seductively professional. White lettering over a deep black backdrop. It said, "All stress and aches are brought on by darkness held within the soul. We can assure that you will leave our location with a newfound sense of life and liberty." I thought, wow, I hope this is professional. I perused the site more. No signs of anything wrong. The only thing that seemed criminal was the price. For the premium package, I would be $450 lighter. But expensive equals best. Right? I called the number. A stern female voice answered. Untitled, where we distress best. How can I help you? When I asked about the package, there was a pause. Then she said, "Ah, yes. Donovan, I presume? I see you visited our site recently." I was taken aback. How did she know my name? It was so casual. She ignored my confusion and elegantly cut me off. "We are open on Christmas Day," she said. "Perfect. 7 p.m. on Christmas Day." We set the appointment. That night, My girlfriend burst through the door, sobbing about work. I comforted her. I promised her things would get better. I knew she was going to love her gift. She needed it. We fell asleep watching her favorite show. But later, I woke up to check my email, a digital receipt from the spa. I found this odd because I had never given them my banking information. My account was down $481. I tried to call them back. Nothing but a harsh dial tone. I felt like I had been scammed. When I awoke the next morning, my girlfriend was gone. A note on her pillow said she had been called into work, but it was Christmas. Her store was closed. I ran to the living room. It was untouched, but the front door had been kicked in. The handle was hanging from its socket. I called the police. They didn't help. They told me she probably just went out for fresh air. They told me to try and enjoy the holidays. It was like salt in a wound. Then, a notification on my phone, an automated reminder. Don't forget, spa appointment, 7 p.m. tonight. Those people. I went to my computer to take photos of their website, but the link was dead. A gray 404 error page. The next 24 hours were a cruel joke. Silence, gloom, dread. The police finally showed up the next day, but they acted like I was the problem. They rummaged through our gifts, ate my snacks, and treated the whole thing like an annoyance. I finally collapsed into sleep, only to be awoken by a violent pounding at the front door. I rushed to the door. The knocking stopped. I saw a solid black van with tinted windows burning rubber down my driveway. I opened the door, and my heart shattered. Sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in a white robe with a towel still wrapped around her hair, was my girlfriend. She didn't look hurt. She looked empty. Her eyes were glazed, her mouth hung open. Her skin had never looked more beautiful. Every blemish, every imperfection was gone. Even her birthmark, the one on her collar that we called God's proof of authenticity. It was gone. The only mark on her body was a small bandage, stained with a drop of red, on her forehead. I screamed her name. I begged her to respond. She only replied with scattered grunts and heavy breathing. I began shaking the wheelchair, sobbing, pleading for her to come back to me. Her eyes remained distant and hollow. As I shook the chair, a laminated card fell out of her robe. It had the ST logo at the top. I bent it down to pick it up. My mind was breaking, and I read the words that finally pushed me over the edge. Session complete. Thank you for choosing Suren Tide, and happy holidays from our family to yours. Our final story tonight is a journey from public shame to ultimate respect. This is... I was publicly humiliated by my high school director, and 2 years later, he called me. Imagine being 17 years old, standing in front of your entire school, and the person who is supposed to guide you is shouting at the top of his lungs. You're worthless. You have no feelings. You're shameless. You pretend to be someone you are not. That happened to me. Back then, it was December 18. I was part of a committee organizing the year's biggest event. Everyone was counting on us. We hustled, running from place to place. We stayed awake for nights on end, ticking every box, handling every logistic. The event went off perfectly. It was a success. No, when it was over, we felt invisible. We were treated like tools, as if our hard work didn't matter. The team realized something together. We were being treated like workers, not like human beings. So, the committee made a choice. We said, "We're not doing that again." But the director, a priest, a man of immense authority, had other plans. He wanted to organize his own event with his sister, and he expected us to run the same marathon all over again. The energy wasn't there. The team wasn't feeling it. One morning, he called me in. Not the whole team, just me. He told me to deliver all the invitation cards, to make the rounds to other schools, to do the work the others had refused to do. I told him the truth. It was a committee decision, not mine alone. His event happened, but it flopped. Not many people showed up. The context was different. The timing was off. But he wasn't looking for context. He was looking for someone to blame. And the easiest target was me. Monday morning came. The entire school gathered. Students, teachers, staff, hundreds of eyes. Then, my name was shouted across the courtyard. "Come here." My heart froze. My body wanted to run and collapse at the same time. I walked forward. He grabbed the microphone. His eyes were red with rage. His voice boomed through the speakers like a storm. And then he started shouting. Words began slicing through the air, each one heavier than the last. "You're worthless. You have no feelings. You're shameless." The courtyard seemed to shrink around me. His voice bounced off every wall, every window, every eye watching me. I could feel the heat of embarrassment crawling up my neck, burning my skin. Inside. I was screaming, but no sound came out. I wanted to fight back. I wanted to defend myself. No, something inside me knew. This wasn't the moment for words. Minutes stretched like hours. My chest tightened. My hands trembled. And then, instinctively, slowly, I raised my hand toward the sky, and I clapped. Just once. A single, steady clap. It made him even angrier. His face twisted in rage. As I turned to walk away, he shouted one last thing at my back. "I'm waiting for you to make one mistake, just one, and I'll expel you." When I got home that day, I cried. I buried my face in a pillow, trying to drown out the echo of his words. The pain felt fresh, a bitter mix of sadness and frustration. It was a recipe with no sweetness, only salt and pain. 2 years later, long after I had left that school, I saw him again, the same director. For a second, my chest tightened. The old memories tried to pull me back into that courtyard. He looked at me, and he asked, almost cautiously, "Can you come and give a conference at my school?" The same person who had tried to convince me I didn't matter was now asking for my presence. I smiled slightly. I could have said yes. I could have gone back to prove him wrong. But I didn't. I didn't need to. I had already moved on. There was no need to prove myself to someone who lived in the past. And that made me realize something important. Alignment with yourself often creates misalignment with others. When you start discovering who you are, when you begin to grow, some people will try to tell you that you're nothing. Not because it's true, but because you no longer fit their expectations. Don't let their words become your reality. Keep your alignment. Keep your growth. And with that, tonight's journey comes to a close. We've traveled through a lot of shadows together, from the lonely stretch of a road erased from the maps to the personal trials that leave marks long after the lights go out. These stories remind us that the world is often much deeper and more complex than it appears on the surface. Thank you for spending this time here with me. If one of these stories resonated with you, or if you have a story of your own that needs to be told, please share it in the comments. I read every single one, and your voices are what make this community special. If you enjoyed this experience, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to AV. Your support allows this channel to grow and helps me continue bringing these narratives to life. For now, it's time to let the day go. Take a deep breath and leave the worries of the world behind. Stay safe, stay curious, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. I'll see you in the next one. Good night.